Why would a group of people who've just seen Jesus perform an incredible miracle ask him to leave immediately? Luke tells the story in high definition. Evil can be subtle and seductive. Sometimes the devil wears Prada, so to speak. But this is about evil's true face, what it looks like when it falls out of bed in the morning, before it adjusts its wig and brushes the blood off its teeth and puts its stage makeup on. Evil owns this man completely. It's destroyed his house. It's cut him off from his friends and family. It's stripped him naked. It's stolen his dignity, his name, and his identity. It's taken control of his mind, his voice, and his body. He lives alone in a graveyard, tearing into anyone who dares to come too close. And it's not just this one man who is outmatched. The surrounding community is too. They've tried chaining him. They've tried holding him under armed guard. But nothing can contain this man. He's torn iron shackles apart with his bare hands. This is a horror film monster level of evil. Their only choice is to bar the doors at night and walk for miles around this area to avoid him. And then one day Jesus shows up in the region, setting up what seems sure to be an epic throwdown fight. God versus evil, Jewish teacher versus naked, chain-ripping demon beast. And the whole thing is over before anyone's hand even gets in the popcorn bucket. Then Jesus pulls up in a boat, and the monster man shows up to meet him like he was reporting to jail. "Get out of him," Jesus says to the demons inside him, and they can't even conjure an escape attempt. They run toward Jesus instead of away, fall on their knees, and start begging him to spare them. They're almost embarrassed for these demons. It's like watching a biker gang crying snot all over a parole officer's shoes. There's no recovering your reputation after this scene gets around. The demons ask for permission to enter some pigs instead of returning to hell. Apparently, they aren't eager to hear their buddy's take on this particular encounter. Pigs are a humiliating downgrade. Like Elon Musk begging for a job selling calculators. And Jesus allows it. But the joke's on them, because the demons are so desperate to get away from Jesus that they accidentally stampede off the side of a cliff and drown the pigs. This is humiliating. It's like watching a heavyweight champion wrestle a 100-pound gamer. Except that in this case, the gamer is actually the biggest, most terrifying monster anyone has ever heard of. That's the guy that Jesus just pinned to the mat with his pinky finger. This, my friends, is what you call total domination. When the crowds show up from nearby towns to check out what's going on, they find the man who's starred in all their nightmares, fully clothed, fully sane, and sitting calmly at Jesus' feet beside his disciples, looking up at him with total devotion. This is the moment they decide that Jesus needs to leave as fast as possible. What's the deal here? Didn't Jesus just do this man, not to mention everybody in the area, an incredible favor? Well, there's one thing scarier than a man possessed by violent, uncontrollable demons. Someone who can send those demons packing without even breaking a sweat. Jesus hasn't just demonstrated power here, power to get good things done. Jesus has demonstrated authority, the ability to give orders and see them followed. You might have noticed that this has become a bit of a theme in Luke. When a Roman soldier's servant got sick, Jesus gave orders and that servant got better. When a child died, Jesus ordered him up and he rose. Jesus gave orders to the wind and waves and they went still. Now he's told demons to jump, and they've jumped straight into the abyss. Any sensible person watching this should be asking themselves a question. What if this Jesus starts giving orders to me? Authority is hard for most people. We feel threatened by even the thought of someone having control over us. We hate the idea of someone telling us what we can do or not do. If we were forced to choose, we might rather risk living with some demons running around than invite in a guy who claims the right to issue commands. This is what many people see when they look at Jesus. The frightening potential of the loss of their freedom, their autonomy, their personal choice. But ask this man once possessed by demons, and he'll tell you a different story. Evil claims it can offer freedom because it has no rules. It claims it can give you power so that no one can control you. But the fact that the chains can't hold you and no one can tell you what to do doesn't mean you're free. This man was too strong for anyone to control, and yet he was a slave to his basest impulses. He couldn't even control his own mind or body. When he met Jesus, he met someone with the right and power of command. No question about that. Yet what Jesus did with his authority was give this man his life back. Bowing to Jesus gave him back his mind, his body, his dignity and identity. Bowing to Jesus gave him back his voice, his story, and a choice how to tell it. Bowing to Jesus gave him back his community and a purpose in it. The freedom of having no orders or rules isn't the same as the freedom of having real choices and the capacity to make them. Reigning as a king alone in a graveyard isn't all it's cracked up to be. There's a greater freedom that comes only through the risk of bowing to a greater authority. Let's read the story in Luke 8, verses 26 to 39. So they arrived in the region of the Gerasenes, along the lake from Galilee. As Jesus was climbing out of the boat, a man who was possessed by demons came out to meet him. For a long time he'd been homeless and naked, living in the tombs outside the town. As soon as he saw Jesus, he shrieked and fell down in front of him. Then he screamed, "Why are you interfering with me, Jesus, Son of the Most High God? Please, I beg you, don't torture me." For Jesus had already commanded the evil spirit to come out of him. This spirit had often taken control of the man. When he was placed under guard and put in chains and shackles, he simply broke them and rushed out into the wilderness, completely under the demon's power. Jesus demanded, "What is your name?" "Legion," he replied, for he was filled with many demons. The demons kept begging Jesus not to send them into the bottomless pit. There happened to be a large herd of pigs feeding on the hillside nearby, and the demons begged him to let them enter the pigs. So Jesus gave them permission. Then the demons came out of the man and entered the pigs, and the entire herd plunged down the steep hillside into the lake and drowned. When the herdsmen saw it, they fled to the nearby town and the surrounding countryside, spreading the news as they ran. People rushed out to see what had happened. A crowd soon gathered around Jesus, and they saw the man who'd been freed from the demons. He was sitting at Jesus' feet, fully clothed and perfectly sane. And they were all afraid. Then those who'd seen what happened told the others how the demon-possessed man had been healed. So all the people in the region of the Gerasenes begged Jesus to go away and leave them alone, for a great wave of fear swept over them. So Jesus returned to the boat and left, crossing back to the other side of the lake. The man who had been freed from the demons begged to go with him, but Jesus sent him home, saying, "No, go back to your family and tell them everything God has done for you." So he went through the town, proclaiming the great things that Jesus had done for him. I'm Meghan Good, and this has been Reading Jesus. If you'd like a discussion guide to help you in your reflection or conversation, you can go to patreon.com/Jesus Collective Community and look for the Luke 8 discussion guide. Thanks so much for joining me for a few minutes in Luke, and I'll see you next time.